The year is 542, and the docks of Constantinople are as busy as ever. Merchants hawk their wares from distant lands, sailors bellow orders, and the air is thick with the scent of spices and sweat. But beneath the surface of this bustling metropolis lies a shadow, a looming threat that few can sense. As the grain ships from Egypt dock in the harbor, they unknowingly bring with them a silent killer, a microscopic enemy that will soon unleash havoc upon the city and its inhabitants. At first, the signs are subtle. A few cases of fever and fatigue are dismissed as the usual ailments of city life. But soon, the symptoms become more severe, and panic begins to spread like wildfire through the crowded streets. Boils erupt on the skin, turning black as death itself, while fever and delirium consume those unfortunate enough to be infected. Emperor Justinian I, seated on his throne in the opulent halls of the great palace, receives reports of the spreading sickness with growing alarm. He knows that his empire is facing a crisis unlike any other. Trade disruptions and agricultural devastation worsen the plight of the empire, leading to fewer farmers and plummeting grain supplies. As prices soar and tax revenues dwindle, the once mighty Byzantine army struggles to replenish its ranks. Cities fracture, territories are lost to invaders, and the very fabric of society begins to unravel under the weight of the relentless march of the disease. Even in the face of economic collapse, Justinian remains steadfast in his ambitions, demanding high taxes to fund military campaigns and grand construction projects like the majestic Hagia Sophia. As the plague tightens its grip on Constantinople, the city descends into chaos. Streets once filled with laughter and music are now haunted by the wails of the dying and the lamentations of the bereaved. Bodies pile up in the streets, their stench mingling with the smoke of funeral pyres that burn day and night. Even the mighty Justinian isn't spared, succumbing to the illness, but miraculously surviving. Quarantine zones are established, and the sick are isolated from the healthy in a desperate bid to contain the spread of the disease. Physicians and healers work tirelessly to treat the afflicted, but their efforts are often in vain against an enemy they cannot see or understand. In the end, the toll is staggering. Thousands perish daily, and the streets of Constantinople are choked with the dead. Between 20 to 40% of the city's populace succumbs to the disease, while the empire as a whole suffers losses ranging from 25 to 50 million lives. The plague of Justinian, though eventually subdued, leaves an indelible mark on history, reshaping the course of the Byzantine Empire. The shroud of war tightens around the world in 1918. The Great War rages on, its brutality a constant presence. Censors in warring nations strive to maintain morale, suppressing news of a terrifying new illness. But in neutral Spain, newspapers report freely, painting a picture of a nation ravaged by disease. It arrives unannounced, a silent stalker carried on the backs of soldiers returning from the battlefields of Europe. In bustling port cities and remote villages alike, a feverish cough pierces the air, a harbinger of a coming doom. Weary from years of treating war wounds, doctors witness a terrifying transformation. Healthy young men and women, seemingly invincible one day, are struck down the next. Faces flush crimson, bodies racked with chills, lungs drowning in a sea of fluid. The flu devours its victims with a horrifying efficiency, leaving behind a trail of bewildered grief. Hospitals, overflowing with the afflicted, become battlegrounds of their own. Desperate nurses fight a losing war, their starched white uniforms a stark contrast to the ghastly pallor of their patients. Cities, once vibrant hubs of life, become ghost towns, the echo of sirens the only sound breaking the eerie silence. Fear, a virulent contagion itself, spreads faster than the disease. Streets empty, shops shutter their doors, and a grim procession of horse-drawn hearses becomes a daily spectacle. The Spanish flu respects no borders. It waltzes across continents, leaving a path of devastation in its wake. But even in the face of such despair, there are flickers of hope. Doctors, fueled by an aching determination, tirelessly search for a cure, while communities, though fractured by fear, band together, offering solace to the grieving and tending to the sick. Ultimately, between 50 million to 100 million people perish during the pandemic. The toll of the Spanish flu serves as a somber reminder of the catastrophic impact that infectious diseases can have on populations. In the tumultuous years of the 14th century, Europe yet again faces a dire threat. The Black Death, borne by trade ships from the east, spreads rapidly and mercilessly, showing no mercy to any age group. The culprit behind this horrifying illness? The bacterium Yersinia pestis, primarily transmitted through the bites of infected fleas, which often feast on rodents like rats. Yersinia pestis causes a trio of terrifying illnesses in humans: bubonic plague, pneumonic plague, and septicemic plague. Yet during this dark time, it's the bubonic form that prevails, leaving its chilling mark with painful swellings of the lymph nodes, known as buboes, with aching joints and a horrific blackening of the skin. The plague leaves a ghastly tableau in its wake. Entire villages stand deserted, houses eerily silent with doors hanging ajar, streets patrolled only by scavenging rats, the very creatures who unwittingly spread the disease. Groans and cries of pain pierce the air, a constant symphony of suffering. Doctors, cloaked in long robes and grotesque beaked masks, offer what little solace they can. Their treatments, based on ancient theories of balancing bodily humors, prove woefully inadequate against this unseen enemy. Bloodletting and purging weaken the already frail victims, offering little hope against the relentless onslaught of Yersinia pestis. Religious fervor reaches a fever pitch. Churches overflow with desperate prayers for deliverance, while some seek solace in flagellation and religious processions, hoping to appease an angry God. Others, driven to the edge by fear and despair, resort to scapegoating minorities like Jews and foreigners, accusing them of poisoning wells and spreading the plague. Amidst the turmoil, acts of heroism and compassion shine through the darkness. Some brave souls risk their lives to care for the sick, offering what little comfort they can in the face of overwhelming suffering. Physicians, though limited in their knowledge, tirelessly search for a cure, experimenting with herbal remedies and new surgical techniques in a desperate bid to halt the plague's horrifying march. Entire generations vanish, causing a profound demographic shift. Labor shortages drive economic reforms, while the plague's trauma fuels social and religious upheavals. With 75 to 200 million lives lost across the world and around half of Europe perished, it serves as a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability to nature's invisible forces, etching a chilling chapter in history.